Friends, and welcome to today's Light and Darkness reading. Chapter 8 The Traitor. At dawn, the lords were once again gathered in Philon's hall. There was a low hum of whispered discussion as they waited for King Tyagon to make his entrance. Lord Benel had been the first to arrive. He had not seen his son since he had left the night before, and was as anxious for news of him as he was for Tyagon's address. He had meant to appeal to his son's wounded pride to procure his help, but he feared he may have pushed him too hard. What if he had challenged Alva Dene to a second duel? If he won, this would certainly solve a great problem for him, but there was far too much risk, especially in Bonsan's state of mind. But he was not too worried about this. If Bonsan had been killed, he would certainly have heard about it. But where was he? To his great shock, his son entered the hall in Hellel's company, which included Alva, Hope, Nera, Pensor, and Prior. Bonsan looked sad, but his eyes had some look of new purpose that seemed to replace his previous hopelessness. Benel was about to go to his son and ask him how he came to be in such strange company when Tyagon entered the hall. Philon was by his side, and they sat down side by side in two great chairs at the head of the hall. Everyone was silent in the king's presence, awaiting his words. "I have heard much," Tyagon began, "and I will now speak. No man must dare interrupt me until I am finished, so that my words may be understood in unison. Alva Dene," he said, turning to Alva, "this includes you. I understand that you are your own, but you are in my council, and in this council you will respect my kingship." Alva bowed respectfully in acknowledgement. "I am caught in a difficult web," the king continued. "When my father died and my brother was made emperor, I took an oath of obedience to his every command. To disobey him on any point is treason. However, Teraphon also took an oath. Part of the ancient oath for emperors of Hurin, which is still used, is an oath to protect the people of the empire from harm. I believe that by surrendering Hurin to Dachman, he is breaking this oath. However, I know he does this in good conscience. He believes it will be worse for the people if he resists. As Lord Benel wisely reminded us yesterday, we create pandemonium if we challenge a ruler every time we disagree with his interpretation of the law. Despite my strong disagreement, I believe that for me to oppose the will of my brother would be treason, because that is the way he would see it, and he, not I, is the emperor of Hurin." When he said this, Benel breathed a sigh of relief, but the king's eyes showed that he was not finished yet. "I cannot, in good conscience, oppose my brother. But I cannot, in good conscience, surrender the people of my kingdom to Dachman. After carefully revisiting the terms of the Great Peace, I believe my father made an oversight that might help us in this situation. When he established me as king, Teraphon was not yet emperor because he, my father, was still alive. Whether he thought it sufficient or whether he simply did not consider it at all, I do not know. But the lords were required to swear allegiance to me in the new kingdom. They were never required to swear allegiance to the emperor of Hurin. Up to now, this has made very little difference because I am under an oath of allegiance to the Emperor. So what it comes to is this. If my brother is opposed, I, and I alone, will be the traitor. Therefore, the most honorable solution I can find is to abdicate my throne in favor of Lord Philon, and return to Hurin, confess my treason, and face my brother's justice. Your Majesty! Ben-El said in shocked outburst. Silence, the king said loudly and firmly. I have not abdicated yet, nor have I finished speaking. As long as I am still king, I will be obeyed. Lord Ben-El was silent, but made no gesture of apology. He stared straight at the king with anger and disgust. Lord Ben-El was a courageous man after his own fashion. Before I make this abdication, there are certain decrees I must make, so that I may feel my kingdom has been left in a proper state. The first is, as I have said, the house of Daivon the Great will be restored to the throne in Lassania. Philon, you must take this responsibility. His look gave Philon permission to respond. This had been the result of Tyagon's overnight meditations, so the issue had not yet been brought before Philon. Your Majesty, he said, I am no king. You must be one, Tyagon replied. You come from a great line of kings. You must follow in their stead. I am behind you, my king, Philon said. But if you are going to oppose your brother, why not stay and lead us? Conscience, Tyagon responded. If I am to commit treason, I must surrender myself as a traitor. I am a Hurin. I will live and die as a Hurin. This is the only way I can do honor to both Hurin and Lassania. As your king, I command you to be king after me. You have never resented me, Philon, and you have always been loyal. This must be your greatest act of loyalty. The room was in silent shock. All eyes were fixed on Tyagon, including Alva's. The king spoke again. Before my abdication, there is an issue that I must address. Al-Salah Dene was not treated fairly in the aftermath of the Hurin-Lassanian War. Philon III was a friend and mentor to me. He did what he felt he must to save the kingdom. He sacrificed Al-Salah Dene. Most in this room are well aware of this, and in the presence of his son, the time has come for us to acknowledge the wrong that has been done and make what restitution we may. Many of the lords became very uncomfortable now. Half of them were Hurins, and many of these owned lands that had once belonged to Alva's father, and they would certainly not wish to give them up. Ben-El began to feel a glimmer of hope that some of the lords might resist Tyagon. Philon IV spoke next. My father admitted as much to me, he said, and it brought tears to his eyes. He slaughtered our men brutally, Ben-El said. He was an outnumbered military general, Hel-El said. He had a family oath. Did Hurin expect to be welcomed to a free and happy country as liberators? Lord Hel-El, Ben-El retorted, we have been friends for a long time, but you are a Hurin, and those are the words of a traitor. Let us not play games, Tyagon said. My father hated Al-Salah Dene, but he also respected him more than any other enemy he had ever faced. He hated him because he could not conquer him by force in a suitable time frame. He hated him because Al-Salah forced him to make a peace pact rather than win by military might. If Al-Salah was a butcher, then so is every good soldier, and in that case there is never a legitimate reason to go to war in defense of one's home. Al-Salah Dene was wronged, and I will say as much in a public proclamation. Lord Alva, what restitution would you seek? Nothing, your majesty. That will fully satisfy me. You do not wish any lands returned? Ben-El asked. He had hoped to create tension between Alva and the lords. No. A lord with no lands? Ben-El said with a laugh. I have no children, Hel-El interjected, and Alva is affianced to my ward. He will inherit all of my fortune and property. My lords, Ben-El and Hel-El, Tiegon continued, I am addressing Lord Danae now. I have been patient, but do not presume too much on my grace. I am still king and still do not wish for interruptions. I humbly apologize, my king, Hel-El said. Ben-El said nothing. He just stared at the king angrily. Lord Danae, the king continued, addressing Alva again, have you anything else to say in this matter? One thing, your majesty, Alva replied. For years I have considered Lassenian blood superior to that of Hurin. I have despised Hurin lords and thought ill of them. Today you have made me ashamed of these views, and I must ask your forgiveness. I am very sorry that you must abdicate. You are a king I could have served. Then do me a great service, Tiegon replied. Leave the past behind you and serve Philon IV. He needs you. You are Alva, yet I must ask you to be the king's shield as your father was. I understand that this is difficult, and I will give you some time to consider. If you should do this, I will make certain it is on one condition. Philon will agree that, should he make terms with Dahkman, you will be free from your oath. Ha! Ben-El interjected. A king who is a lackey for his military general. Why not just make Lord Danae king? Lord Ben-El, Tiegon shouted. You will have the opportunity to speak. Until then, you will be silent, or I will have you put in irons. Ben-El was silent. The Danaes are not kings, Alva said. I will serve King Philon, but if I am to defend Lassenia, I must make another request. Yes? Lordship for all the men that fought at the Dry Lake. These men will be my generals and commanders, and one cannot be a general without being a lord. Any objection, Lord Philon? Tiegon asked. You are king still, Philon said. If you will truly not stay, then I will rule the kingdom as you leave it for me. All of this will be set down in a decree forthwith, Tiegon said. This concludes the matters I address. Any lords who find this unacceptable may accompany me to Hurin. I will tell Teraphon that you are not traitors. I have now finished speaking, and anyone who wishes may say whatever he likes. What is there left to say? Ben-El asked. Your words have a sense of finality. My son and I must excuse ourselves. We must prepare to leave for Hurin immediately. Come, Bonson, let's go. I'm staying, Bonson replied. You are my heir, Ben-El replied. The other lords may participate in treason if they wish, but we will faithfully serve the Emperor of Hurin, whatever his decision may be. We will be men of honor. I'm sorry, father, Bonson said. Alva Danae is his own. He will serve who he wishes unless he serves no one at all. However that may be, I serve Alva Danae. Since when? Ben-El shouted in disbelief. After I left your company last night, I threw my sword at Lord Denay's feet and offered him my service. He was gracious enough to accept my offer. Why? Because things are happening in this world that are greater than my own personal desires, and I must be on the right side of them. Alva Denay says the light resides in his lady. She says it really resides in him. Here Bonson stopped and closed his eyes for a moment as though in pain. Then, as though forcing out the words, he said, I believe they are both right. And however the coming conflict may end, history will show that Bonson served the light rather than the darkness. Ben-El trembled. Tears seemed as though they would form in his eyes, but he mastered himself. Wonderful, he said. So the pride of the Twin Kingdoms, the heir of one of the greatest noble families in Huron, has become a lackey for the son of a disgraced butcher. Penstor started to move in Ben-El's direction when he made this last statement, but Alva caught his arm and stopped him. Ben-El saw this and said to Alva, You aren't going to let your old man kill me? No, Alva replied. I know this is hard to believe, but I really do understand. Enjoy the son you've stolen, Lord Denay. I expect he will be as great a disappointment to you as he has been to me. Lord Bonson is my brother. He will only ever have one father. Remember that, my lord. Save your preaching for the fools who follow you, Ben-El replied. I don't need your condescension. I maintain what I said yesterday, Alva said. Your son does you great credit. I hope you will see that before the end. Before the end, you will die screaming, Ben-El said. I am the son of Al-Salah Denay, Alva replied coolly. It is very likely that I will die, but I promise you, I will not be screaming. She might, Ben-El said, inclining his head toward Hope, who was sadly watching the scene. Hope, my love? Alva said, addressing her. Yes, Alva? If I die, don't scream. I'll try, she said with a slight smile. This caused a slight chuckle in the room. Ben-El reddened. He turned without looking at his son again and stormed out of the hall. Alva wished he had handled the end of that conversation differently. Whatever his thoughts on Lord Ben-El, he considered the father-son relationship sacred, and he was sorry that this interchange had ended with Ben-El being humiliated. Bonson looked sad, but not remorseful. His look was one of grim determination. Chapter 9. Plans and Preparations. In addition to Lord Ben-El, there were 2 other lords that left for Huron. All the others chose to stay. Each had his own reasons, and it would be too much to explain all of them, but certain factors were in play for each of them. A few of them had actually encountered the Dachmonian ambassador and his bodyguard. Though he terrified them, the thought of living under this dark rule was more than they could stomach. If Alva Denay had killed one of the Dachmanim, as Hellel and Bonson both validated, then perhaps they had a fighting chance. All of them had pride. The Lassanian lords took a renewed pride in the legacy of the Denays. Alva's return meant that some things that had been lost might be restored. The Huron lords had pride in the Huron Empire. For them, there was no ideal situation, but they had Hellel and Bonson to preserve the pride of their lineage. Hellel had long been admired throughout the Twin Kingdoms as one of the greatest lords. He was wise and virtuous. If he believed that opposing Dachmann was right, it seemed that it must be so. Further, the luster of the Grand Championship was still fresh. It had been feared that Sverrian of Aknan might defeat the Pride of the Twin Kingdoms, but Bonson had dispatched him easily, stirring Huron pride in all the Huron lords. Alva's defeat of Bonson had not diminished this pride because both men had fought so well. Bonson was everything they believed him to be, even if Alva Dene was more. Though Huron might be surrendered, they could take pride in Lassania, and if Terafon would not carry on the warrior heritage, they must find a new warrior to follow. Though Alva Dene was no Huron, a greater warrior would be difficult to imagine. All of these factors contributed to the decision of the lords, but by far the greatest factor was hope. To see her, to hear her speak, and to hear her sing was to know that there truly was hope. Her light gave them a warmth and happiness that assured them darkness could be defeated and light could prevail, however unlikely the odds might seem. Hope was properly named, for she brought hope to the lords despite Benel's best efforts to sabotage it. The side Hope took must be the right side. All that was good seemed to be summed up in her, and to follow her was to live for the light. She represented a power that was greater than Huron or Lassania. Philon ruled, Hope inspired, and Alva led. After Tyagan had left for Fanata to prepare for his departure, Philon asked Alva what would happen next. Lassania had no army of her own, and Alva explained that one must be gathered and trained very quickly. Dachmann had not expected their resistance, so there was some time before an invasion could come, but their action must be immediate. To begin with, Alva said, Hello will be my lead counselor, Pensor will be my general of the regular infantry, and Prior my general of the special infantry. Lord Bonson will lead the cavalry, and in addition, he will be my sword master general. He and I will train men who will train other men the use of the sword. Bonson was quite struck by the honor and bowed gratefully. For the immediate plan of action, Alva said, we must all go our separate ways to gather men in the places we know best. Hellel will remain here to organize the lords. Hope and I will ride into the north country, where my home is, and gather those who are willing to fight. Prior will do the same in the east, and Pensor in the south. Lord Bonson, you know the best swordsmen in the kingdom. I need you to gather them, as well as any other able-bodied man you can find in your travels. Take Kiel with you so you can keep him out of trouble. What shall I do if they do not wish to come? Bonson asked. Persuade them, Alva replied. My lord, I am no rhetorician. Become one. Here Bonson smiled. You say that as though it were as easy as learning to put on boots, he said. Alva's eyes flashed. You are Lord Bonson, not some simpering imbecile. He said this in a voice somewhere between annoyance and anger. Don't talk to me about what cannot be done. It doesn't become you. You'll have your swordsmen, Bonson said. I know I will, Alva replied. As Bonson left to carry out his orders, Alva called after him. Bonson! Yes, master. Bonson, my name is Alva. What did you wish? Alva? Just tell them what you believe, Bonson. Nothing is more powerful than a believer. No one can do more damage than a man who believes a lie, but no one can do more good than a man that believes the truth. Say what's in your heart. Yes, master, Bonson said with a smile, then turned to go on his way. Putting a lot of responsibility on that young man rather quickly, aren't you, Alva? Pensor asked. Yes. You sure he's trustworthy? Yes. I don't mean to second guess you, son. It's just that his passions get blown around very easily. My father always said, treat a man as you believe he is, and he will become it. Alva said, you know that. You used the same technique on me when we were on the trail toward the dry lake. Yeah, but he ain't exactly the man you are. He doesn't need to be. I believe that the man he is will suit our needs. You're the Danae, Pensor said in acquiesce. The plan was to meet in Bracia once the troops had been secured to train the army and prepare for the coming invasion.